Hey there, hiker friends. I'm Matt O, and welcome to Hike Life. Today we got kind of a twofer for you. And first, we're going to begin with Darn Tough socks. I've been wearing these socks. This actual particular pair was my first pair of high quality socks, and they're made by Darn Tough. And I bought these about 2 years ago. I've been wearing these for about 2 years, and the reason I'm showing you this is I finally wore a hole in the bottom of one of them. Let's see if you can see the hole. See that hole right there? So Darn Tough has this policy where if you are able to wear a hole in one of their socks, you can return them and they'll send you a free pair of socks. No questions asked. So I've been waiting for a chance to do this because I just want to test out whether they honor their word or not. And I hear that they do. I just haven't tested out for myself. So I'm going to send this pair of socks into Darn Tough, which, by the way, these socks are made in America. I think they're made in Virginia, if I remember right. I'm going to send these in and see if they send me a new pair of socks for free. And when that happens or doesn't happen, we'll have another little blip episode on my experience with that. These are great socks, by the way. I just want to test out their policy and see how they honor that. So we'll get back to that eventually on another episode when I either receive a brand new pair of Darn Tough socks or I don't. Ooh, the suspense is getting great. But you guys can't wait. So we'll get back to that later. So the other thing on the agenda for today is the fact that I'm actually supposed to be on trail hiking right now. And as you can see by the umbrellas in the back, I'm in my backyard. Why? Because California is trying to burn itself to the ground again, and there's smoke in the air, there's ashes falling from the sky, there's fires everywhere, and I was going to be going, in fact, yesterday morning, I was still planning to go hiking today. I had my backpack all packed up, and found out that the trail I was going to go on was still open, but they were going to make it so you couldn't use a stove, which kind of bummed me out. And I started doing some research on cold soaking because I still wanted to go. So I did a little bit of research on cold soaking, just kind of freshen up because I've done some research on it before. Got my plans together, decided I'm just going to go anyway, going to cold soak my meals. And when work was done, I was on my way back to my car and I was looking up the updates, and U.S. Forest Service had shut down all their lands. They're kicking people out of campgrounds because they're worried about starting more fires by accident and resources not being available to put those fires out. So they're just making sure that nobody can accidentally start a fire, and they're making sure that nobody's in their lands. So that means I'm not camping today because most of the trail I was going to be on is on U.S. Forest Service land, and so I was kind of bummed. What the heck am I going to do? Well, I decided I'm going to experiment with this whole cold soaking thing. So that's what we're doing today, experimenting with cold soaking. So a lot of the hikers that do cold soaking recommend the Talenti jar because it's the right size for a meal. Supposedly it's got a super tight lid and they can cold soak their meal in their backpack without it getting water and liquid everywhere. So I've got a Talenti jar, which by the way makes pretty amazing ice cream. The one I really like is the one that came in this one. You probably can't read it, but it's the Alfonso Mango. So if you're going to go get some Talenti and you like mangoes, this is really good ice cream. It's like a gelato. It's pretty amazing. I am not going to lie. I love this stuff. But back to the cold soaking thing. Going to use the Talenti jar. Going to cold soak 3 things. Ramen noodles in the Talenti jar. And I'm actually going to do ramen in 2 different ways. I'm going to do ramen in Talenti, and then I'm going to do ramen in a Ziploc because I just want to see what's different. And for the Talenti jar, I'm going to have to crunch all my noodles up so it'll fit in the jar and then cold soak it. But I prefer to eat my noodles long and stringy, so I'm going to do one in a Ziploc and see how that works. I'm also going to do, these were recommendations by professional cold soaker hikers, I guess you'd call them. Some Idahoan instant potatoes. These ones happen to be the 4 cheese flavor. Supposedly these are really good cold soaked, and I'm going to do those in a Talenti jar. And then also, because you need a breakfast option, also I'm going to do some Quaker instant oatmeal. This one is apples and cinnamon, because who likes plain old oatmeal? Not me. Going to do those in a Talenti jar also. So guys, this will be kind of a fun experiment. Hope you stick around to watch what happens and see if I like it or don't like it, and if I'm going to do this someday on my backpacking trips. Let's get to it. Okay, so for option number 1, ramen. Going in the Talenti jar. All crunched up. Oh, I gotta get my flavor packet. It's not gonna work like that in there. All crunched up. Got my hiking buddy Pika here. She's always next to me, and especially when I have food, because she's thinking she's gonna get a treat. But it's all raw right now, Pika. You don't want to eat this raw. We're gonna at least gotta get it cooked and soft, right? Dumping the flavor packet in there. So when I was researching how to cold soak ramen, which isn't rocket science by the way, they said don't use the recommended amount of water, use about half because it ends up getting really soupy. I don't really want soup, I just want noodles with a little bit of liquid. So I'm gonna go with a cup. I'm gonna do it like I would if I was out backpacking. So I'm using my filtered smart water and I'm gonna pour a cup of water into my measuring cup, which also happens to be my coffee cup. There's 1 cup of water. Going in the Talenti jar with the ramen noodles and the chicken flavor pack. Gonna put that on tight. Giving it a shake. So the things I read said it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour for this to be edible and tasting good. So I'm gonna time that and we'll get back to how that works. And I'm gonna soak it upside down because I want to test these threads and see if there's any leaks, because if I have this in my backpack and for some reason it tips, I want to make sure this thing isn't going to leak all over food, all over everything that's in my backpack. That'd be just gross and nasty and uncomfortable. Ramen in a Talenti, 1 cup of water. Setting it aside. Alright, so ramen in the Ziploc. Boom. Don't forget the spice pack. If you can get it open. This thing's giving me trouble today. Pouring 1 cup of water. Zip it up, squeeze out the air, zip it real tight. Give it a shake. Boom, ramen in the Ziploc, setting it aside. It is 10:30 on the nose for basically both my ramen in a Ziploc and ramen in a Talenti. Alright, up next, the Idaho and potatoes. 4 cheese flavored. So I guess the advantage to cold soaking, you really want to bite, don't you? You'll get some later. Pika loves her treats. The advantage to cold soaking is that you don't have to carry a stove. You don't have to carry gas. Back up, back up. Sit down. Hey, sit. Good girl, stay. You don't have to carry gas, so you're saving weight. The only gas you have is the gas you get from eating cold soaked food, I guess. You're saving weight from not carrying a stove and not carrying gas. The disadvantage is that you don't get a nice hot meal, and you don't get hot coffee. So I guess you got to weigh out the goods and the bads and decide what you're going to go with. I've never cold soaked before the very reason that I don't get a hot cup of coffee in the morning, and I really like to have hot meals. And I didn't think this all the way through, but my 2 cups of water is not going to fit in this container. So I may have to do this experiment again. We'll see. Stir it around with my camp spoon that I keep in my backpack. The directions say use 2 cups of boiling water for these potatoes. We're not boiling it, and 2 cups doesn't fit in my Talenti jar. I'd say I got 1 3/4 cups worth to go in here. And the experts say the instant potatoes really are instant. You don't have to wait very long for them to be ready. Whereas the ramen, you gotta wait for a while. Add a little more water. See if that blows the lid off when these potatoes start to swell. That'll be a whole new experiment. All right. We'll see how long those take. The potatoes are starting at 10:35. And I only have 2 Talenti jars because I had 3 and found out the hard way. These things do not hold up to boiling water. They melt very fast in very hot water, just so you know. So I'm going to have to do my oatmeal at a different time once one of these 2 is all done. Alright guys, the potatoes should be ready. I tasted them at about 5 minutes, and now it's been about 15 minutes. I wanted to see if there was much of a difference. But they seem like they were probably about as ready as they're going to get at about 5 minutes. Just testing it out. Yep. They taste exactly like what you would expect instant mashed potatoes to taste like if you use cold water to prepare them. So whatever that's worth, they're really not bad. I mean, how much can you expect from instant mashed potatoes anyways? The 4 cheese gives them some flavor. I would definitely be okay with eating this on a trail, and why not? I would have to add something to it, of course. Maybe some sriracha or Tabasco, maybe a little mayonnaise. I would have to eat some salami along with it. But they're not bad. I would definitely consider this as an option if I needed to go stoveless because I had to or because I was choosing to. This would be a definite option I would consider bringing along in my backpack. The jar didn't leak, and potatoes aren't bad. And now, because my trail buddy and the one who my wife refers to as my girlfriend, Pika, has been waiting so long and so patiently for a little bit of a treat, I'm going to share some with her because she has just been sitting here being very obedient and waiting for her chance to eat. Come on. Come here. There you go. Right there. Atta girl. Alright. Cleaned out my Talenti jar. Had the potatoes in it. Ramen's still soaking. It's been almost 30 minutes. We're going to check that out in just a little bit. First, I'm going to prepare this. So I got my apples and cinnamon instant Quaker oatmeal. It's going in there. The package says to add 2/3 cup of water. But I know from experience, even adding 2/3 cup of hot water, that turns this into oatmeal soup, which I don't like. I like it a little bit thicker. So I'm adding about 1/2 cup of water, which is what I do when I'm making it hot. So 1/2 cup of water going in. Lid going on. Give them a good shake to mix it up. Gonna set that upside down too because I still want to test these threads out. and I'll check that in 10 minutes or so and see what's up with it. Alright, it's been 30 minutes for the ramen. Gonna give it a little test. I can see some liquid. You see that? Right down here, it's still floating around a little bit, so it tells me that's probably not all the way soaked up. And the noodles still have a little bit of a crunch to them, which if you like that, it's probably perfect. But I don't want them to get nice and soft. If I was hungry, I'd eat it now. If I was like, I can wait a little bit longer, I would do that. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to give it another 15 minutes, tested at 15, and then tested at 1 hour. So we'll have a 30-minute test, which I just did, a 45-minute test in about 15 minutes, and I'll do an hour test and see what it's like after 1 hour of cold soaking. Now my Ziploc, the noodles feel pretty soft, but there's still quite a bit of liquid in the Ziploc container, so I don't think they're soaking it up as fast, probably because they're not broken up, so it makes it more difficult for them to soak up. But I still think if I was hungry enough, at 30 minutes I would eat it like this, but I'm going to let this sit for a while. Oh, and by the way, my Ziploc has not leaked at all either. Alright, we'll come back in a bit. Alright guys, so at about 45 minutes, I took a little taste test of this, and it was perfect. The one in the 20 was perfect. The one in the Ziploc was almost perfect. It's been an hour. Let's see what it's like. Yep. I like it. I would definitely eat this cold soaked on the trail. Check these ones out. The reason I like this is because they're nice and long and stringy. I don't know why, but I like that. Yeah, those are great too. So, for the ramen, I would say if you're gonna chunk it up, crunch it up and put it in a Talenti jar, 45 minutes is just perfect. And then 15 minutes after that, after an hour, it's about the same. For the Ziploc, at 45 minutes, it's not quite done. It's mostly done, but it has just a little bit of crunch in the noodles. And in an hour, it's all nice and soft. So if you like it with a little crunch, take this one out at 45 minutes and start eating. 30 minutes, start eating this one. 45 minutes, it's perfect. Well, it's all the way soft, is what I mean. So there you have it for the 2 ways to cold soak ramen noodles. And for the oatmeal portion of our experiment. So in the Talenti jar, I put some Quaker Instant cinnamon and apples oatmeal, and I added half a cup, because 2/3 a cup was going to be too much, but half a cup turns out it's actually a little too much. It's kind of soupy. It's edible, but it's a little soupy. So what I did was I mixed up another little bag of the same oatmeal with a 1/4 cup in my little mug here, and it's actually just about perfect. It's not too soupy, it's not too dry. I just spilled on myself. So, lesson learned. Just like for the ramen, use half the water that's recommended. Use about half the water that's recommended for the oatmeal. Let it soak for 15 minutes wasn't quite enough. Half an hour was perfect for the oatmeal. So let it soak for half an hour using half the recommended water, and it's going to turn out great. It's cold, but the point is you didn't have to carry the weight of the stove and the gas. And so I guess that's it, guys. after this little experiment, the food tastes good enough where I would definitely consider cold soaking for a backpacking trip. I know I would miss the hot meals, and I know for sure I would miss the hot coffee. But it may be worth not having to bring as much weight. So I'm definitely going to try it at some point. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that in your neck of the woods you're able to get out and enjoy some hiking, because right here I'm not able to. I'll be watching the weather and the news, and as soon as I can hit the trail again, I'm going to. Hit the little like button, the thumbs up if you like this video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to have some more subscribers. And if you want a notification every time I put out a new video, hit that little bell in the corner. This corner or that corner. Anyways, the little bell. And happy hiking.